grown in numerous locations in our county, and the amount of effort being put forth by the Sheriff's Department to keep control, and the number of people, all of a sudden there were home invasions and other sorts of very violent crimes occurring that were really alarming neighborhoods. And apparently Los Angeles County has now banned these organizations. A number of other counties have banned these organizations, and at times taken a look at outdoor marijuana. I mean, what's the broad picture? All of a sudden Fresno became ground zero in this issue, where we really didn't have these problems before, and it sounds like part of that has been activity on the part of cities and counties, and as it's eliminated in one place, all of a sudden it starts popping up in a new place. The fact that the federal law is not in concurrence with state law, I think is a core issue. But maybe you can help explain this broader. Why are we seeing all of this?
Individuals have learned how to exploit the system and the current California laws that regulate and allow medical marijuana. Our investigation specifically, as we would go out and do compliance checks, our narcotics unit, including Lieutenant Coe, would go out to the medical marijuana collectives, check the doctor recommendations who are posted around the fence, and then count the plants. And almost always, the number of plants actually being grown is just a few less than what the total recommendations are. But what we discovered is that many of the patients were criminals, prior criminal history, felons, convicted of cultivation of marijuana, and to us that made us question whether or not they were a legitimate collective. The investigation started, put the information together, provided that to the Eastern District U.S. Attorney, Ben Wagner, and let him know that we believed that there was a criminal enterprise going on, and that it included transportation across state lines based on investigation. As it turns out, we were right. So far, we have followed our marijuana to Arizona, Utah, Texas, Massachusetts, and Tennessee. We interviewed one suspect who admitted he had made 10 trips to Boston from Fresno County. Marijuana, the price of marijuana in other states, those other states is much higher than it is in Fresno County.
Do any of those states have medical marijuana laws?
Yes.
They do?
Yes.
Okay.
Needless to say, when we're following cars across the nation, these investigations are very involved. There's overtime involved. However, so far we have 11 federal indictments for these suspects. One of the most offensive things that they did as they transported this marijuana, one wore a military uniform and hung another in the window of the car just to avoid domestic highway enforcement from stopping them, and it worked. They actually were waved on by some law enforcement just because of the fact that they either wore or displayed military uniforms. Lieutenant Cook, I know I've left out some important issues here, but if you would fill in the blanks. Board, we cannot definitively testify that the collective marijuana went to Fresno County dispensaries. I can say we followed deliveries to dispensaries, however, we cannot prove what they delivered. I could not affirmatively say it was in fact marijuana, and that's all I can tell you about that specific issue. But any pertinent information that I left out?
Morning, Board. Richard Coe, Lieutenant, Fresno County Sheriff's Office. Some of these things I can't discuss in great detail because they're ongoing federal investigations. But the Sheriff is correct. We have followed a number of loads out of state. We are tracking loads that are being shipped through the mail, through UPS and other shipping services, also that are coming from our collective grows in Fresno County. And we've seen huge amounts of profiteering in that industry now, and criminal organizations becoming involved in it, and not the medical aspect of it. These investigations are continuing. We have conducted surveillance of shipments leaving grow sites and going to dispensaries, but since we have not served search warrants of those, we can't tell you definitively what that was. We certainly have suspicions, but everything that we're talking about out of state, we've actually seen, put our eyes on, tested, and know that that's marijuana legal. Anybody have any questions?
On those marijuana that's legal now, there's one particular dispensary that was mentioned in the paper, or just growing area, not dispensary, but growing area, and that you track product from that facility clear to Massachusetts, is that correct?
That is correct. And it's interesting that within about 7 miles of the airport, we found about 31 large-scale grow sites in Fresno County.
And those all had indications out in front that there were medical marijuana being grown there, and had names of people that were registered for that collective, is that correct?
That is correct. But those collectives, grow sites, also generate a large number of complaints for us. We were receiving upwards of 10 complaints a day for these grow sites because of the odor, the traffic, and the reported criminal activity associated with it.